This will be a day long remembered. Now I am the master.
Welcome to another episode of Legends and Theories, and welcome to my review of the Corruption on Mandalore Arc. We'll be, of course, recapping and reviewing this like I do every week, so let's get into it. Duchess Satine asks her friend, Padme Amidala, to visit the world of Mandalore, because after getting neutrality in this war, in the entire thing with Death Watch, she's been having a hard time getting supplies for her people due to the war, and just to get a little help, she does ask her friend to come over, since there's been a lot of corruption throughout the planet with the black market being used to sell basic goods and supplies that they should be able to provide, but with the war they are not. And when in a meeting with Satine and her council, Padme just sees how truly bad things are, with there being lots of arguing and fighting inside of the building, and although Satine does want this to stop and wants to find a solution, things have been getting pretty bad. Meanwhile, on the docks, smugglers have been bringing in many of these different materials and have decided to use Slaben to create tea and a drink that many do have. And this will be getting things cheaper, but if it is done wrong, they could be pretty dangerous and act as poison. But they do not care, since we're able to get them more money and it makes the production cheaper. Things, of course, are getting worse, and the obvious thing happens. This tea was not made correctly, and children have begun to get poisoned. Things have been getting pretty bad. So Padme and Satine decide to go and visit the hospital, where they learn of this and learn that all of the students were at the same school. So they go and visit and figure out that the tea has been something being imported to the school to help with the lack of drinks and stuff. So they track this down and learn that Slaben is in it, and they go to the docks to investigate. Figuring out the school superintendent has something behind this, they are able to get some clues from him because he did not know the drinks were poisoned, and he sends them to the docks. And at the docks, they meet up with one of the people, and he basically says that, yeah, he admits to it, but he has done nothing really illegal, and they can't go and arrest him. So Satine decides to take things into her own hands. Thinking around, they figure out just how bad things are and find the warehouse. They go, and Satine is furious with this, and she decides to burn down the warehouse, even though the guards don't think it's a good idea. Satine is able to convince them to do it. The smugglers are in a pretty bad place and decide to go and retreat, and Padme is understanding of her friend and decides to help her and requests for the Jedi to send someone to go and teach the next generation about corruption and why it is bad. The Jedi decide to send Ahsoka, and after Anakin drops her off, Satine tells that they do not allow outsiders to bring weapons after everything that just recently happened with Obi-Wan. And Anakin takes her lightsaber, and Ahsoka goes and begins to teach the kids of Mandalore. She teaches many, including Satine's nephew Corky, and gives them some basic lessons about corruption, why it's bad, and the effects of it. Later that night, Corky and a few of his friends are really just hungry and want to find food. They decide to go and check out the docks to see if there is any food and figure out why there are food shortages. They go and discover a secret meeting between someone in the government and smugglers. They do manage to get a recording, but after making a mistake, they are pursued away. Corky does go to his Aunt Satine and tries to get her help, but she tells him that they should not be dealing with this and she will deal with it. Not really trusting her, they then go to the Prime Minister, Olmec, and will then tell everything to him and set up a meeting. And finally, they are questioned by Ahsoka in class and they tell her everything. And suspicious of this, Ahsoka follows them to a meeting where her suspicions are confirmed when the kids are ambushed by the same guards they saw the previous night. And this gets them very suspicious when Ahsoka is able to save them. Ahsoka is able to use a hologram identifier to figure out that Almec is the one behind all of this. And Ahsoka begins a plan. She has the cadets being arrested and taken in, as Ahsoka has turned them in, believing that they are part of the corruption, and thinks that Satine might be behind it also. Almec reveals that he has already arrested her, and after leaving the cadets and Almec, Ahsoka is able to use a Jedi mind trick to get into Satine's cell to check on her. But Almec reveals that he has trained his guards to resist Jedi mind tricks, and he has actually captured Ahsoka, the Duchess, and the students, and begins to torture them and tries to force Satine to sign over a confession that she is the one behind the corruption. But at this time, Ahsoka is able to break free and capture Olmec, and teaching the students a good lesson about corruption and why it is bad. She has done her job, meets up with Anakin, and leaves to go back to the war. And honestly, this is probably the worst one I've gone over so far because it's really forgettable. And I think this one and Bounty Hunters were the only two I had to go and look at a synopsis of the episode. This one was a lot worse because honestly, I did not remember too much of it, or even less than Bounty Hunters, where I could at least remember stuff like Hondo. And with this one, the only really important thing that happens is Olmec being found corrupt, and that's something that doesn't even matter until a lot later in the show. So yeah, honestly, this is not too good of an episode, and I honestly had a kind of a hard time remembering what happened in it. So it's still a decent arc, and does have some important things that happen. And I do love every episode of the Clone Wars. I don't think anyone is truly terrible, and will at least remain around the 70s. I don't think anything would go into the 60s, but if it did, it would probably be upper 60s. And with this one, let's take a look at the score I give it. And with this, I give us a score of 78.2. giving this the lowest rating of any episode I've done so far, and is conveniently well, the worst episode, while the Mandalore arc is currently the best. And I think it's gonna stay like this, with those being the top and bottom, for at least a good amount of time. There are gonna be some episodes that do rank lower than this one. But still, of all the ones we've done so far, I think this one definitely is the worst one. And yeah, honestly, I don't feel too bad putting it there because yeah, sometimes it's just gonna be a bad or not as good episode in a show, especially if it is 7 seasons long. So I think that yeah, you will be having some things that could be excused, and still it's a pretty good score, being a high C. And looking at everything else, next week I will be going over the episode Assassin, which is the return of Aura Singh, and yeah, that's gonna be a pretty short one, and it's gonna be pretty easy to do. So I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you on the next episode of Legends and Theories. Thank you for watching this episode of Legends and Theories. Please subscribe, like the video, share the video, leave a comment, check out the video on screen, and may the Force be with you.